Okay, this is our cheetah painting, and the colors I have are white, yellow, orange, brown, black, and green. The brushes I'm using are a little pointy brush for very little, a small angle brush, and a large, kind of an older sort of a fluffy angle brush, the 5/8 size. Make sure you get the 5/8 size. It's for all the big areas, okay? Now, the kind of small angle brush I recommend, I think I've shown you all this before. There's at Michael's has a set, it's called Craft Smart EVP, assorted all-purpose brushes. It's an $8 set. It's got pointy brushes, little squared edge brushes, and then angle brushes, and there are 8 angle brushes here that work. Some of them are too small to use, but among the ones that are there, there's 8 of them that work really well. And for 8 angle brushes that are kind of 1/4 inch or thereabouts for $8, plus a bunch of pointy brushes you can pull out. Some of the pointy brushes are too big, but you can use another 8 or 10 pointy brushes too. It's a good set. So it doesn't go on sale. It's a standard $8 everyday price. Okay, now I'm going to start off with my small angle brush. I'm going to replace this and hope that I can get it in frame pretty well. Looks like it is. Okay, now I'm going to use yellow to get started, but I'm going to also put a little bit of orange in it, just so y'all can see it for the video. Like you might use a little bit of color for the people to see what you're doing. But when I do this, I'm going to dip into my yellow with my small angle brush, and I'm going to look for about roughly about 1/3 of the way down on the left side. Right about there, put a little mark right about there, about 1/3 of the way down, and then about 1/3 of the way down from there, which is halfway down from there. So basically breaking the whole thing up into thirds, okay? Now, if I'm going to err on this, I want to err a little bit low because I want a nice long snout. But what I'm going to do is come up with a little smiley curve, okay? From this point here, this is the top of the nose. I want to angle this up slightly, but I want to come in about 2 or 3 inches, kind of 1, 2, 3, about like that. It was pretty good, about like that. Not too far, but about that wide, okay? It's, you know, maybe double the size of the middle part of the brush, but you can see that. I don't need an exact measurement for that. And then I'm going to put a little, another little mark halfway down from there. Now that's not the bottom of the nose, that is the cleft of the muzzle. So I want to come a little bit above that, which is right there, like maybe about a 1/2 inch from there, and make a little line out here that angles out some like that, so it looks like a little, kind of a little mountain, right, like that. And then do an S curve. The S curve goes up, up, and around and up, okay? Up and around and up, like a little S curve, like that. And then I'm going to come out with my nose, I'm sorry, with my eye. This is going to be where the tear duct settles, and the tear duct is going to settle over a little bit from the nose. So make sure that the tear duct comes out a little bit from the nose. So here I am, here's my nose, going to go up, 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 even with that, and then come over about 1 inch and put a little mark there, okay? So there's my tear duct. Now I'm going to go about halfway up from there. I'll put a little mark over here if I want to, a little mark right about there, about halfway up from there. And then come halfway over into the canvas, which is about there. So halfway above here to there, halfway there, and then I'm going to make a big curve, a little frowny curve, goes up, up, up and over like that. That's the top of my eye, okay? Top of my eye. And from there, I'm going to make the actual eye itself, which is going to come from here, which is where the mark even with that. But I want to come a little short of this, okay? Like maybe right about there, a little bit short of that. It's going to curve up like that, like a leaf. So it's like the opposite, like a little leaf, like that. Looks pretty good, okay? Again, use yellow for this. A little bit they'll use yellow. You can use a little bit of orange if you need to. Okay, then I'm going to make another line that comes out. This is the second line. It comes out like this. That is a kind of a coloring line, like that, coloration line. Then I'm going to come down here to my muzzle, which is right there. Remember, that's a little bit below that mark. And I want to come down even with the wide part of my nose and come down about halfway down from here and put a little mark right about there. It doesn't be perfect, but right down, right about there. So I'm about halfway between here and the bottom, roughly. And then I'm gonna make a line that comes like this, comes down, and then starts to curve up. So the low part was where that mark was, all right? Now, this is gonna curve up a little bit, and where that curves up is gonna be right about in the middle of my eye. So here's the middle of my eye right here, so it comes straight down from my eye, and right about here, I'm gonna start to curve it up and around, like so. And what I'm gonna get now is a great big letter S, all right? And it's gonna come like this. It's gonna kind of swerve around like that, like a letter S. See that? Looks like a letter S. And there's not that much space here, but again, this is below this. This is about in the middle of the eye where the wide part is, about like that. And then from there, I will do one more little bit of coloring section. It's going to kind of swirl down like this. This is another little bit of the coloring of the eye like that. So that curves around like that. So that kind of makes it its own S curve like that. See that? Okay, then I'm going to come out from the eye, and I want to be about a third of the way in from the top. So about a third of the way from the top, put a little mark. That's about a third, that's about a third, roughly about a third. And I want to drop down, so I'm about in the middle of the eye. The middle of the eye is right about here, middle of the eye, come out, even with that, put a little mark right there, okay? That's going to be the wide part of the head. Now the head wants to break out from the snout about halfway in the middle of the nose. So here's the middle of the nose right there, come out right about there, about halfway in the middle of the nose. And again, all I'm doing is just looking at what I've already done. So you don't have to memorize all this, you'll see it right on the sample painting, which is what all I'm doing right now too. I don't have it memorized, I'm just looking at the sample. And I'm going to come up and make a nice big curve. It's going to come up like this, up, wide parts there, curve it back around like that. Not to this mark, just kind of keep it curving naturally. And so I get a nice big curve like so, looks good. It's just one great big bow curve. It might be a little bit tight there, it might come a little wider, like that. And then from that wide part, I'm going to make a curve off the side like that, curves down, that's the shoulder. I'm going to come about halfway up here, get his little ear going, ear curves up like that, like I have a little teddy bear ear, around like so. And then I got to do a couple more quick things. I got to make a couple little coloring points. Well, actually, let's get his lower lip. Now, the lower lip of the cheetah is not a chin. It's really just his lower lip. So it's going to start here, and instead of having it go off the bottom, I'd like it to curve really close to the bottom of the. So I got a little bit of paint right there, a little bit of space right there. I'm going to bring this over like that. There we go. And then, let's see, I gotta get my coloring area. Out here is about in the middle between the eye and the side of the head. I'm gonna put a little mark right there. And this is gonna be a separation in the coloring. Bring this out further so it comes to there, okay? And then I'm gonna come down below here, right a little bit below where this started, like right about like that. And then this is gonna follow the arc of the eye and be another little curve kind of like this. Just kind of curves around like that, just lightly. I know it's a bunch of lines, but we're going to separate them very soon. And I did that really lightly so it wouldn't show up, but kind of like too much in the painting. And then up here, I got one more. This is going to actually keep going like this S. Instead of going around the eye, this S is going to keep going up like this, over like that, and come almost to the top, but not quite, and then curve around and become part of this. So that creates its own little sort of A-frame there, but make sure it's nice and roundish. Okay, now once that's done, that's the end of that step. So now I'm going to take my brush and rinse it out and dry it, and I'm going to get my my large angle brush. I'm going to start doing some painting. Now the areas, there's no real white on this painting. It's white and a little bit of yellow, so I'm going to get a great big scoop of white with a big angle brush, paint this a bunch of white on there. Whoops. A bunch of white on it, and get a little teeny bit of yellow. Not much, just a little bit of yellow, so it's not super white. And got a little bit of yellow on it, just a little bit, like that. Paint all this in like that, go up around the nose, get a little bit higher than the nose right there, a little bit higher than the nose, come around like this. Keep it nice and wet, because I'm going to put a little bit of coloring on it as well. And then I'm going to come down, paint the lower lip too. The whole thing is one part. And then up here, it's going to be a little bit, I'm going to add a little bit of, just a teeny little bit of orange to it, okay? Mostly white, just a little teeny bit of orange, but don't let people get it too dark, okay? Just a little bit of orange, and that's this part here above the eye, yeah? And this part here, not the part in there. but actually the part around here, this lower part, and it's got a little bit of a slightly, kind of a yellow-orange cast, but mostly white, okay? Mostly white, mostly white. All right, so there it is. There it is, okay? Now, I'm going to get a little bit of white and a little tiny bit of brown. I mean a little bit, just a little teeny bit, not much. I want to put the some coloring on his muzzle, but I got to keep this very, very light. White with a little teeny bit of brown. And I'm going to hold my brush on its edge like this, like I'm going to draw with it. I'm going to start right about there and put a line out like this and a line out like this, like that, like a little arrow. But then very quickly before it starts to dry like that, I'm going to brush it up and down like this and like this, so I get this little muzzle. Now that's really light, so I'm going to go a little bit browner, a little bit browner. Kind of like that, there we go, kind of like that, just very lightly, just lightly, lightly. You don't want it to get real hard on the edge, so if you need to, you can always come back in and put a little more white on it, or take the brush and wipe it off. This might be a little stronger. Just like that. And if it gets too, it looks funny, but that's because it's the first thing we're doing. But if I need to, I'll wipe my brush off a little bit and kind of softly go on the edge of it there like that. Just softly along the edge if it ends up looking like it's too hard. Like I push all the solid color of the paint on the outside. And that's it, just a nice little muzzle. Okay, then that's the end of that. Then we're gonna paint this area, okay? This area right here is white, big scoop of white, put some white up on there, big scoop of white, and a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of orange, and a little bit of brown. So I'm actually getting all the colors on here, but I want to keep it real subtle. And we did a lot of talking about just, planning out of just laying the colors on there, just lightly, and blending it in place so we don't get too away from what we want. Okay, I'll put a little tiny bit of brown on there, just a little bit of brown, but they can see the original, they see how it looks like softer in certain spots, like just like that. Now, when I go and paint this in, kind of like that, maybe a little touch more brown. I want to go up against here like that, go up against there. I'll go up against here like that, and I'm gonna, there's a little angle that comes down from the eye edge right there. It kind of angles down like that. And then all of this is painted. But up against the coloring here, I need to get my, I'm gonna get a little more brown on that so it looks a little bit darker. I'm gonna hold my brush up and make this edge right here look irregular, this edge right here. So it looks a little zigzaggy, but randomly zigzaggy, and goes up into the area that I already painted, so it doesn't look too flat right there, okay? Now, then I'm gonna get a little bit more orange, and I'm gonna do some lines like this, out like that, just lightly, light. We'll do a lot of kind of blending on top of the colors we've already painted. And a little bit more brown, I'm gonna do a little more brown, just out like that, light, out on top of what I already did. Not repainting the whole thing, I'm just painting it out like that. A little more orange maybe. There we go. Kind of like that, just lightly with the wide part of the brush. And let it look multi-toned, you know? Multicolored looks good. Like so, that looks good. Maybe a little bit more brown. Don't be afraid to use a little bit of brown. As long as it's wet underneath it, the brown won't hurt it. Kind of like that. There we go, that looks good. Okay, now I'm gonna paint this area here. All of this, all right? Now all of that is gonna be white and a little bit of orange and a little bit of brown. I don't think I need to worry about the yellow too much up in here. I'm gonna do white and orange and brown. It's a little bit darker, but not super dark, kind of like that. Looks pretty good. White and orange and brown. I'm gonna go up against my nose like that. I'm gonna paint up from the nose. And when I get down to this little area right here, I need to do the same thing as I did there. I'm gonna hold my brush so it points down and just make that kind of zigzaggy like that, right, just like that. I'm gonna come up around the eye. When I get up around this eye part, same thing. I'm gonna do a little zigzaggy around there, like that, and then come around over here, make that kind of wiggly too, zigzaggy, and then I'll paint all the rest of that. Now when I paint all that, again, white, orange, brown, lots of paint, kind of like that, and all through here, again, lots of paintbrush with long strokes, and I'm gonna paint this around here. Now, when I go to paint this, I'm gonna put a little bit more orange on that, more orange on it, and orange it up a little bit. Now, I need to get a little bit more brown paint, and I need to carefully go in and come from here and make a little line up like that, so that I actually make a little bit of a bridge separation up in his nose like that, softly, make it look soft, a little darker, might have a little more orange on that too, orange and brown. is right on top of that. Brush it lightly, but again, I want to make it really wet. Make sure that paint is really wet so that when I paint this, it doesn't look harsh and scratchy on top. It just blends in. So now the nose is sticking out a little bit, and it pushes the cheek back some. Not the cheek, but the area between the nose and the eye, like that. Kind of like that. Okay. I'm gonna be a little bit darker, just a little bit. Okay, now once that's done, let's see. I might as well take the color that's on my brush and paint the ear a little bit. I might put a little more white with it so it's not too dark. Kind of like that. And I'll paint that in more than I think I want it because the black's gonna come over that, so I'm gonna put a little more orange on it. Kind of like that. All right. Okay, then I'm gonna paint this area. All of this in through here, I paint all of that. Now this needs to be done so that the white and the yellow start me off at the top. White and a little bit of yellow. And I want to clean my brush, just wipe it off a little bit because it's not gonna be super light. Kind of like that, maybe a little more yellow at the top so it looks a little more golden at the very top of his shoulder. And then I'm gonna introduce some orange as I come down, a little orange as I come down, but I'm gonna use lots of paint, mostly white. Come down, 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 a little oranger as I come down, like so, up against his head, but then brush that out. More white. You're gonna go more into the white and the orange now. And introduce a little brown into it as I go lower, but brush that up into the part you've already done. Again, it's not supposed to be super smooth, but I don't want to see like, stripes of color. Bring that down, bring it down, down, down around here. A little brighter orange in through this area, like that. And then down toward the bottom, down here I'm going to get browner. Make sure you go around his muzzle, get a little zigzaggy around the muzzle there. And get all that up on there like that. More orange perhaps, more orange. Funny noise. All right, and then as I come into the left here, I'm going to get my brown in here and then add a little bit of black to it. Now, not a whole lot of black, but a little bit of black because I want it to look darker under here. And just lightly brush a little bit. That's probably too much black. Just a little bit of black. So sometimes it's not like with the line where it gets too black. More easily. I just want to get a little bit of black and then just brush that out just really softly, and make it look like his cheek, his tongue is, or his chin is protruding or his lip is protruding, kind of like that. Okay, that looks good. Okay, now I'm going to pause for just a second here, catch my breath, and we will move on to the background. Okay, now the background on this one's a little more elaborate than the other ones have been. We took a little time with this, and some people opted to just paint it solid, but I'm going to try to put a little bit of a grassy look back here. I'm going to get some yellow and a little bit of green, and I'm going to paint some lines. You can pre-mix it a little bit if you want to. But I'm going to paint some lines that go up like this that look like grass. Like that. Paint one there. I'll paint one, I'm going to try to match this kind of close if I can. Maybe another one up like this. Same angle brush. And then I'm going to come up maybe off here a little bit, bring that one off. I'll cut through and bring one over here like this, kind of cuts up like that. And then I'll bring maybe one up like this, like that. And I'll cut through over here like that, bring one over there. I'll bring one down from the bottom, maybe cuts up and kind of connects to that one. Maybe bring this one off a little bit. I mean, I'm not trying to be real fancy here. I'm going to cut through there. Okay, so that's it. That's enough, just so it looks kind of random. Now, once I've done that, and I painted them so this yellow-green, I'm going to put a little more green on them. This ended up a little bit light. A little more green on them like that. There we go, a little greener. And I'm going to put a little brown on them, okay? Because I don't want these to be real bright. I want it looks like underwater type stuff right now. I want to make it look more scaled back. So I'm going to get a little bit of brown paint and brush a little brown on them and have them look not so pretty, but more more background, more to get a more of a natural look, kind of mossy, almost camouflagey type look like that. And then once I've done that, then I'm going to get some orange and brown, orange with a little bit of brown, and paint the inside parts like that. Paint the inside parts, just go right around it. Now when I get up against the cat shoulder, I'm going to brush it a little up and down like that so that I get a little irregular looking furry little shoulder, because that's the edge of my shoulder against the background. Okay, so that a little bit orange brown. Then once I've got that, then I'm gonna get some black into it, okay? Because I really need for this to fade back some. And I may have to come back and put a little bit more brown and black on it once it dries, but this is getting me set up here. Again, just I need a very kind of sort of graphic, almost abstract looking background, but kind of like that. Okay, then I'm gonna get some black paint. Get some black paint, put some black in there, kind of in the inside part like that. And just brush it while it's wet. And I'm not trying to, again, we don't want people to take forever trying to perfectly blend all their colors up against the edges perfectly. This is, the more random this looks, the more blurry it looks. I need this to be blurry so it doesn't distract from the cat. Just lightly, just black right on top of that. Just darken it right up. And I'm not quite happy with this. This got a little bit too bright in here. I'll put a little more green on these. These are a little bit too bright. These need to be a little darker. I don't care if a little black goes into it too, it's fine. Now there's one more thing I do with this when we're done is after it dries back some, I'll come back and put some green lines on top of the brownish black that's in between the grass, this background here, just to make it look a little bit more grassy. But that looks like it. That's pretty much it. See, that looks very kind of blurry and grassy. And that's what I want, just like that. Okay, all right, I'm gonna take my brush and rinse it out, dry it. And I'm gonna go to my big angle brush. We'll start doing spots. This is my big angle brush again. No, this is my big angle brush. And I'm gonna go to my black paint. Okay, now the brush, I'm gonna use my brush upside down so it points away from me, all right? Like we do, so it's upside down, points away. Make sure that I get the concept here. I'm just gonna smush little marks with the brush upside down. Now I want to follow a certain guide here. I want to start over here where my eye is, and this is just kind of coloring of the cat. There's little small ones that are up against this area here like that, but they don't come too close to the ear. Then they kind of, they're very random, kind of small. They come up around like this, go off the top a little bit, that looks good. And as they come around here, they're going to actually start somewhere even with the middle of the eye, like right about there, even with the middle of the eye. And they're going to come up a little bit, up and back, and create their own little sort of widow's peak look, where they curve around like this, up and around, and back up around like that. Then I need to make it a little bit fuller up and through here. So I'm going to make that go off the top a little fuller, and kind of like that. And then I need to make a little bit, I'm going to wipe my brush off and kind of lightly pull a few of them together. So this looks a little scratchy. This is a little tough if you don't wipe your brush off well. So I'm pulling together, almost like smearing a few of them to make it look a little bit more blackish up here like that. I just pull a few of them together while they were wet. That's all, and that's it. Okay, then let's see, get some more black. I'm going to come down, that's it around there. I'll come down here, okay? Now, I'm going to go and make some nice, strong, this is not a little, small little dots. These are pretty big marks. I'm using the wide part of my brush, but also turning it a little bit against itself so it, I can kind of play around with it a little bit, kind of keep these random. These 3 in a row didn't look so good. But I want to go around the edge first. I'm going to go around the edge and put some that actually define the edge of the cat, like that. Again, randomly, out a little bit, skip a little bit down like that, come out like this. come out like that. These ones at the bottom are especially important too because they help to push his face out and create a background for the whiskers when we do those. So I'll come down like this, come down a little bit more. There we go, like that. And I'm just going to keep bringing them around, very, very randomly. Brush is wide. I can go do like that. I'm going to turn a little bit on its tip, on its upside down tip. Also, get some nice effects. Just keep it as random as you can. Put a small one occasionally. Small ones are good, but the coloring is basically like this. Some a little bit larger. This thing needs to probably come up a little bit so it doesn't look as much like the other ones. In a row like that. I'm going to take some off the sides. Important. Off the sides important too. Come in like that. Put it like that. And like this, and that's it. Okay. Now, once I do that, I'm going to go off the bottom there. So that looks pretty good. Okay, it looks pretty good. Now, I'm done with that. I'm going to get my small angle brush and start working on the eye first. This is my small angle brush. The eye is orange and a little bit of brown. So I'm going to scoop up the orange and a little bit of brown and try to, if I can, paint without, I'm going to try not to have to paint a white highlight. So I'm going to get orange, a little bit of brown, and I'm going to start down here somewhere like that, kind of blend it around a little bit. This is in the eye itself, mostly orange. And then I'm going to find where I think the eye is going to be, which is like in the center there, and put a little curve around where I think the eye is going to be, like that. And that way, it's not important if we mess it up or whatever. I can always put white on top. In fact, I put that little orange line there. I'm probably going to put a white dot anyway. But I just try to be as efficient as possible. So then I'll get that painted around, paint the edge of this, not across the top, but just there. Paint that around like that. And then again, I'm not looking for a solid color here. The more kind of varied it looks between the orange and the brown, the more it's going to look more kind of limpid and kind of, you know, like eye looks, kind of floaty looking, looks all pretty. And I expect my pupil to be bigger than that, but again, the only reason I made that mark there was just to have enough white to put my my highlight, to leave my highlight. Kind of like that, looks good, okay? All right, then I'm going to come down and rinse out my brush a little bit. And I'm going to go to my black, and I'm going to start painting my black. I'm going to paint my nose first, okay? Now my nose, I'm going to put a line up against like this, up against like that, curve that like that, curve my little edge there. And then the bottom, again, so it doesn't look too fakey, I'm going to kind of start and stop a little bit, so it looks like it's got a little bit of, maybe a little bit of fur interacting with it, kind of like that. Now, I'm going to try to put a little highlight across the nose, again, without painting white. If I don't get it, fine, I'll paint white. But I'm going to make this a little thicker here like this, and then put a little line below it that comes up and comes to a point like that, and that's going to be my little highlight on the nose. Make my nose look a little shiny like that. Again, if I mess that up a little bit, wait till the end, then come back and put white paint on it, that's fine. And I'll paint all this black. Okay, then I'm going to start painting his muzzle. Now, this is furry lines like we do with the other cats. I'm going to come down a little bit, kind of sketch this down a little bit. Sketch it down like that, just like that. Come around like this, come around like this. Come around the bottom of his little lip there, chin, like so. That looks good. Sketch this up like this. I'm going to keep going over this way because that's actually some coloring in him, as well as a little bit of separation of his face. It's also coloring. So I'm going to keep this coming up like this. Just start and stop. A little furry. Looks good, looks good. Take it all the way up and take it up a little bit into his ears. A little bit into his ear like that. A little bit into his ear. And then I'm going to come around and do this part here. Now this part is a little bit of both furry edge and coloring. He's got a black line here, okay? So I'm going to come up like this, start and stop a little bit, make it a little bit zigzaggy, but also don't be afraid to push a little bit, make it look a little bit heavier. Especially when I get up a little higher, like there, like that. Then I'm going to come and follow around the eye. I almost went too high there. I'm going to follow around the eye there, like here, like this. Now, this is actually the top of his eye, but it's really fur in there. So I'm going to try to come along like this a little bit and make this look a little bit furry like that, so that when I get the top of his eye, top of his eye looks like it's got fur coming to define it. And I'll come out like this and bring this line. This line's going to come over, not quite over to the end of this whitish area, like right about like that, but a little bit beyond the two sections there. And then his eye has got a regular smooth curve on the bottom, nice little smooth curve like this, across the bottom, like that. And then there's a coloring thing also, where I've got this black part is going to come around like this, from here, up like that, come up and meet up with the line I've already done right there, meet up with it, and then come around like this and have a little bit of width to it. This is a coloring thing, okay, a little bit of width to it. This is just part of his coloring again. Got a little bit of width to it right there. And I've left, as you see, a little bit of white there, okay? Now on the bottom down here, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna leave a little white down here, like that. Now if you mess up and you don't leave that white, that's fine. You can come back and put it on with white paint. But I'm trying to leave it so that I don't have to come back and add a bunch of white paint. Okay, there's that. Then I get a little bit of zigzaggy lines up here. Now this is gonna follow right along the separation between this light and dark area. It's going to go up like this, lightly, zigzag a little bit like that. It's just a coloring thing, but also a little bit of a separation thing too. It looks nice. There's an area over here from this point, which is out even with his eye, and this is coloring, okay? It gets a little wide right here, a little zigzaggy, wide though, wide, and comes down a little bit below his shoulder. Make sure it comes down below his shoulder like that. And that looks nice. It's very kind of cat looking, very, wild cat looking. And then once that's done, I'll paint his ear. His ear is going to be a little bit zigzaggy at the top up there like that, so that the inside of the ear meets the top of the head in a zigzaggy fashion that looks furry. And then I'm going to bring this out like this, very kind of sketchy like that. I don't want a whole lot of this ear part showing, but I want to make sure that the edge of the black is rough, okay? And then don't forget too, we gotta put a little edge around the outside of his ear. That's gonna be just a little furry edge like that, just scratchy all the way up and around like that. Bring it to the front of his, the background. And then this all in here is gonna be black, but make sure that it's black such that when you paint it in, it's the edge of it on the left is rough because of the way you painted that edge there, and the right is rough because of the way you painted that edge. So I might paint this a little bit looser right here so it doesn't look quite so much like it's like a tube there. Just kind of let it come out a little bit more randomly like that. That looks nice. Okay, gosh, we're getting close. There's an area right here that's actually comes up, and this is a part of coloration. It kind of comes up and becomes part of this the spotting system right here. So it goes up like that, light, like that. This all looks part of the same thing. That looks good. That's an important line there, okay? Emphasizes the shape. Okay, what have I forgotten? There. Wow. Got through this pretty quick. All right. All right, now I'm gonna get some, gosh, almost there. All right, I'm gonna rinse my brush out. Before I move on from it, I'm gonna get myself some green paint, plain green paint, and paint some green lines on top of this, these black areas back here. Again, there's just thin lines. They're supposed to look like just more grass back here. It's just more to add the blur, maybe lighten up some of these areas that got a little bit blackish back here, but it's just plain green, and it just gives me a little bit more variety back there, so it's not all quite so flat and plain. And then maybe if some of this got a little bit too light, I might go over it a little bit more, but I don't mind a few little light spots are fine. Even white canvas is fine. Okay, then I'm going to take my pointy brush and paint his whiskers and his eye. I'm going to start out with my white down here. I'm going to get some white paint on my pointy brush. And the way the whiskers are a little different than the other cats that we do. The whiskers are just a little, they stick out and they curve down a little bit, okay? They start right about, now make sure they start in the white, that's important. And just kind of curve down a little bit like that. They start up right above where the curvy part meets the side of his head, like right there, cuts right through. Make sure they come out. Let's see, my paint's wet, so they got a little gray, but yours wouldn't be. Hangs down a little bit like that. But it starts out so it actually breaks the line of the edge of his head like that. So they just come out, they curve down some. I'm gonna not do these all because you'll have a sample to go by because they're gonna be kind of wet. I'm just gonna do a few of them here, like that. And the low ones are, a few of them down here, his little chin looks good, a little hanging down there. It looks kind of, almost looks a little sinister, which is good. Makes him look a little scary in a good way. But just, don't be afraid to do them. Just kind of hang down like that. A few little longer ones, a few little shorter ones. Looks nice. Again, I'm not going to do them all, it's just going to take time. Okay, then I'm going to get some black paint on the same brush, paint his pupil. His pupil, I want to go around the center there so I can leave the little white of the highlight if I can. Of course, I got a nice big orange mark on top of it, so I'll have to come back and add a little white to it. But I'm going to paint this around, not necessarily exactly where I left the white because I might come outside of it a little bit. Paint a nice curve around, just try to make sure it looks centered so you got roughly the same spot above and below. Same amount of space that is, and then paint it with the black. And then you can come back with a little bit of white paint. If you've got a orange dot or if you've got a big black area, put a little dot right there. Get that highlight bright, and I think that's it. Gosh, I can't believe it. Did we forget anything? I think that's all of it. Okay, good luck with it. It's fun.